I'm chatting with Marieke Steen, and we're going to be looking at anxiety. Marieke, first of all, tell us a little bit about you.
Yeah, hi, I'm glad to be here. And I'm a functional nutritionist. I've recently also joined the Peri Hub experts, and I think it's a great group. I really love all the sharing of information there and also just being at a place to rant, because we need that as well from time to time. And yeah, but I actually think anxiety is a good topic because I see it so often coming up in the hub.
Yeah.
And it's also a topic that I'm quite struggling with myself. So I love to share a little bit of my insights and hope that some women will benefit from it and take some good tips for themselves to implement.
Awesome. Yeah, I think anxiety is one of the symptoms that catches a lot of people unawares, isn't it? I think people think there's going to be hot flushes, their periods might change, there's a few other things, and then for a lot of people, there's suddenly this huge anxiety.
Yeah, and I also think it's actually it's a little bit it's subtle, right? It's a little bit like the irritability. You actually don't notice it right away.
Mm.
And for starters, I actually never thought I was anxious. People were telling me, and I'm like, what are you talking about? And that's
What?
maybe also because I'm native German. So in German, basically translation of anxiety for me is like, being scared of something. And that's not me, I'm usually kind
Yeah.
of like, yeah, let's go do this. I'm not scared. I'm gonna, jump off that cliff and, do all these things. It's like, I'm not anxious. What are you talking about? But I'm actually very nervous. And so, I mean, it's also basically about recognizing these kind of things. So it's just this kind of, being nervous, not being able to just sit and do nothing. That's kind of my problem. And then also this over worrying. So, I mean, of course, everyone's anxious, right? If you have like a big event coming up, or
Of
you
course.
may have to do a talk, in front of an audience, or you have an exam, or whatever it is, it's normal. Everyone has, some sort of anxiety for these things. For some people, it's driving or
Yeah.
um, but yeah, so it's different for everyone. But I think everyone has some level of anxiety, which is also normal. But and I think as I said, it kind of creeps up on you a little bit, and you only notice it when it's been with you for a while. And then you go like, oh my gosh, I'm actually just really over worrying about all these things, and I'm stressing out like, everyone around me because I'm like, I'm really basically bothering everyone, like worrying about every little detail, or yeah, and maybe also this kind of being afraid of, letting go of things. And I think that's also what, it's a little bit of a female problem, I guess, a women's problem. They like to have things done their way, and they're kind of used to, running the household, and then you actually ask your spouse or your kids, to do something for you, but they don't do it the way you want it or you would have done it, and then you're actually not happy with it, and you're kind of picking on it. So, um, I mean, that's not anxiety per se, but basically also this kind of not being able to let go of these kind of things, and just say, oh, the laundry's put up, it's all wrinkly and just, all over the place, but hey, job's done. So,
And I think you've
yeah.
hit the nail on the head there that, a lot of us, it might be the first time that we've really felt that we're losing control of stuff, of life, of, maybe our body shape, maybe our energy levels, maybe all these other things.
Yeah.
And we kind of want to get some control back, don't we? And that can lead to us worrying even more about all these things.
Yeah, and I think actually perimenopause is basically we're kind of double punished in a way, because so first we're losing our progesterone, which is our Zen hormone, and basically keeping or used to keep the anxiety at bay, and now it's actually getting worse and worse. And then we have secondly also this, with basically the progesterone declining, we have our stress hormone cortisol ramping up. So we actually get even more nervous. So that double thing. And then on top of that, we have all these maybe other symptoms that we feel like, oh my gosh, what's going on now? I mean, I don't even know who I am anymore. And you basically, you're not able to make sense of it. And you go to the doctor and you get like an antidepressant. And you feel like, oh, so I'm a crazy person now, and that's it. So you also feel really not validated. And I think often men, I mean, they don't know anything about this. So, I mean, it's really also being surrounded by people, by your family who are all not understanding what's going on with you, and you also can't make sense of it. So that's even making things worse, right? Yeah.
So, from a functional nutrition point of view, what are the things that we can do to maybe to balance a bit the cortisol or to support the progesterone, or what can we do to kind of make ourselves feel a bit better?
Yeah, actually, funnily, the first thing is really to work on the diet and to make sure that the blood sugar is balanced. And I actually just had a podcast conversation this morning with a lady who's focusing on diabetes. And the thing is basically with our blood sugar, we don't feel sick. We don't, but our blood sugar may be all over the place and we don't actually know it because, we don't have any pain. We may be irritable. But I mean, many people don't actually relate that to blood sugar issues, or so it's actually really difficult to kind of realize yourself that you may have blood sugar problems. And then the hormones again, actually when we're lacking estrogen, that also makes our blood sugar more sensitive. So I actually did a test myself with a continuous glucose monitor. So I was wearing it 1 week in follicular phase and 1 week in luteal phase to compare.
I bet that was
And
huge.
so the same meal I had in luteal phase compared to the follicular phase, my blood sugar went up 10 points after the post meal. So, I mean, I had always learned this, in theory, but it was basically, I was so shocked to actually see that number. It's like I had the freaking same food. I mean, how is this even possible? You wouldn't actually believe it. You read it in the books and everything, but so I'm really much very much a data person. So I always like to, and then when I see those things, black on white, I go like, oh my God, so
Yeah,
yeah.
I know for me, I found fairly early on in my whole sort of peri journey, shall we say, that it less so anxiety. I've been very fortunate not really to suffer with anxiety, but the rage used, which is very much part of the luteal phase for me, and it was always related to blood sugar. And
Mm.
on the rage day, it's only one day each cycle, so I've got it under control now. If I don't eat regularly on that day, then just, I go into hangry, like before I've even noticed I'm hungry.
Yeah, so I think a good thing to pay attention to is do you need some sort of pick me up every 2 hours? And it may not be food, some people go for coffee or drink a Coke or something, but you may not be necessarily hungry, but like every 2 hours you want something, you want some sort of something that will boost your energy. And that's a good sign to actually know that your blood sugar may need some work. And the easiest thing there really is just really start with a high protein and high fat breakfast. Have like all the protein and fat you want, and maybe then finish with a coffee. Because the thing is, I love my coffee too, but the caffeine can also trigger, basically it raises cortisol and it can impact also our blood sugar. So it's often best to have it after the meal and not first thing, or get up in the morning and only have coffee. That's really not.
Which a lot of people do.
Yeah, exactly.
So if
So
we're thinking of ideas of high protein, high fat breakfasts, what sort of things do you encourage people to have? Because I know breakfast is one of those meals that people struggle with because they think, oh God, I suddenly need that. I just want my slice of toast or whatever.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I'm really lucky in that sense. I've basically always been able to kind of eat everything for breakfast. So I really like savory, I don't mind eating chicken or meat, or most people can do eggs though. And I think
Yeah.
one thing that's really easy, that I often recommend to clients, is make an egg frittata. So you
Nice.
don't add potatoes to it. You just whisk up, a bunch of eggs, and you put in a bunch of veggies. Maybe you've grilled them before, and you put that in the oven, and then you can just basically eat it for a couple of days. You basically just have a slice in the
Wow.
morning, and you don't have to like prepare it every morning. And I mean, of course, you can add bacon to it, or ham, or like any. It's basically a good way also to use up any rests you have.
Yeah.
And then for those who have like a more, who are like, oh my gosh, I want my jam and toast in the morning. Um, I think a good alternative is like a shea pudding, or a smoothie, and also using collagen powder or protein powders that you add to that. So you actually do get a little bit more of protein. And if you're really adventurous, you could maybe add a raw egg in it, or I mean, if you blend it up, you will certainly not actually taste it. But
True.
yeah. So I think those are a little bit, like two easy, very easy options that you could make, that are not that are pretty high protein and fat, and you can always add, avocado, or yeah. Basically, I always also encourage people to have some greens, and then a smoothie is a very easy way to actually blend up a little bit of, romaine lettuce. That's pretty tasteless.
Yeah.
And it adds also a lot of fiber to your smoothie, and some good vitamins. So it's really a good way to make something more nutritious, and like blend in something that you may not actually see yourself eating if you actually have to chew it, or yeah.
It's amazing what you can hide in a smoothie, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. And then, of course, don't go too heavy on the fruit, right?
Yeah.
If you do a smoothie. So rather go for berries, and that can be frozen berries in winter season, or, if it has to be banana, then, go for a green tip banana, and not use like a huge one, but have half a banana for one smoothie, and, make sure you're adding lots of those nuts and seeds in it, or avocado. Um, so you have that good fat in there too. Or coconut milk is also great.
Yeah, awesome. And then for the other meals, I mean, it's easier to know how we can get kind of good fats and protein at lunch and at dinner. So how about sort of snacks? If people are really feeling like maybe because they're in the luteal phase, they've not been sleeping so well and the anxiety's high. And
Mm.
if they're, they've identified this as a blood sugar thing. So they might want to sort of have a couple of snacks with them when they go to work and stuff so they can really just keep on top of this. What sort of things would you suggest?
Yeah, I mean, I think, like carrot sticks or zucchini with hummus is a good one. Or I also, when I used to go to work, I used to always have some miso soup packs in my desk. I mean, that's not like, a real meal, but it can, be like a little snack where you actually, especially in winter, you have something warm,
Yeah.
and it's a little bit, salty and savory, and that can be a good one. And then it can also be like, low sugar fruit with a handful of nuts, or nut butter. I actually like sunflower butter a lot as well, which is a little bit lower in oxalates, and yeah, it kind of has a similar taste to peanut butter, or almond butter, but not so high in oxalates or other lectins, basically. So that's basically an easy way, but you could also make like a yogurt with some flax seeds and a little bit of fruit there as well. So those are some good options, I think. Or,
Yeah.
if you make a smoothie, maybe, make a little bit more and take a little bit in a container to work. And you can add some, you can also make it basically a smoothie. You can always make it a smoothie bowl by adding more of those seeds, like the chia, or also psyllium husk is basically something that gives it more consistency. So you're actually feeling like you have something to eat that you have to chew.
Mm. Excellent.
Yeah.
Awesome. And yeah, and as you say, once once we get our blood sugar more under control, I mean, it's astonishing the knock-on effect that has, doesn't it? It helps with our sleep, it helps with anxiety, it helps with mood, it
Yeah.
helps with, I mean, so many things. It sort of seems such a simple thing to say, well, just sort out your blood sugar, but it's amazing the knock-on effect it has.
Yeah, for sure. And there's also these little traps, right? I mean, so many people love oats, and I mean, I'm one of them. I love oats, but you know, when I wore that glucose monitor, I definitely saw that. I mean, and that may just be me, but it's something that in general I've noticed with together with other colleagues, is that you know, many people go for those overnight oats or oatmeal or also the oat milk, which is very popular right now.
Mhm.
And for me, it was just really just a splash of oat milk that I used to have in my coffee. Um, that was giving me a blood sugar spike. And I wouldn't have believed it, but basically I thought, oh, it must be the coffee. And then yeah, and then basically I you know, I kind of singled out the foods, and at one point I was like, okay, let me try the coffee without the milk. And I didn't have that spike because basically I had it every time after lunch, and I couldn't quite figure it out because I didn't have the same food for lunch. And then I
No,
said, okay, so it must be the coffee. And so in the end, I found it was the oat milk that basically gave me that. Although I did pay attention to the sugar content, because you can buy oat milk that has, you know, 8 grams or 9 grams of sugar. And then I actually paid attention to buy the one that had like 5.5, which is really not too bad.
no.
But sometimes it's not about the sugar content, but really about the the way the food was transformed or the glycemic index. And then, as I said, it can also be bio individual. It may just be me, but as I said, it's also something that I've noticed that other colleagues have noticed as well, that we
Yeah.
exchange.
Oats are a funny one, aren't they? I've heard this from some people. I'm slightly going off on a tangent and we won't go too long on this because otherwise I know people sort of only have a short attention span. But um, I used to use oats a lot, like overnight oats, porridge, and all those things when I was doing a lot of endurance exercise because I found that it gave me the long lasting fuel. And I
Right.
guess it's a different set of circumstances to going and sitting at a desk.
Yeah, that as well, for sure. But I remember I basically had a client, so she was, I mean, she was training so much. She was doing Ironman and running marathons almost every weekend. So she was pretty
Yeah.
extreme, right? In her exercise level. And so basically I had her also wear a glucose monitor. And so she had a big spike. So she was actually, while she was riding the bike, she had a half a banana, and she had a big spike from that banana. So it's not necessarily, I mean, you know, usually the best way to have these kind of food is after an intense exercise, because
Mhm.
when then basically the glucose will go into your as a glycogen store into your muscles.
Yeah.
So you know, that's also how the bodybuilders do it. They have like their rice or whatever after they had a heavy workout. And so actually the way you would have that would be not before, but after actually, because I mean, you were actually looking for that boost of energy, but if you want better blood sugar and basically less weight gain, the better time to have that would be after exercise. And then it's also about, I guess, always about the quantity, right? If you do have only oatmeal or you have a chia pudding with maybe a tablespoon of oats, that's probably a different scenario as well.
Of course. So, Marika, I know you're based in Brussels, but you can work with people anywhere.
Yeah, I do work online. I mean, I don't work with people in Canada, Australia, New Zealand, because I don't know how to figure. I mean, I don't have access to the testing and the
No.
supplements and all these things. So I mainly work in Europe, the UK, and the US.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's basically where I'm all set up to, you know, order all the tests and where I know where I get supplements and all these things. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much. That's been really, really informative.
Yeah, you're welcome. I mean, there's so many more things about anxiety really that I do have a blog post as well. So if people want to check out my website, I don't know. Actually, it was a while that I've written it, but I think it was maybe, yeah, I mean, just go to my blog, basically check out my website. That's mariekesteen.com. And then you go to the blog and then you basically hit the last post. You can also search for anxiety and then you will see basically, all the root causes and tips for
Awesome.
anxiety. But I think if you had to start, it would really be the breakfast and probably also the stress management, just taking stuff off your plate and engaging in some deep breathing exercises. And those are usually the hardest ones, right? I mean, it's easy to just buy lavender essential oil and and bathe in it. That's easier to make these lifestyle changes, right? But that's why I usually want to start with those first because they're more difficult to implement. But once you actually dial them in, then you're actually as you say, you can see a good benefit. And I think for everyone who's like done all these things and says, okay, I've done all these things and what you tell me is so boring, I'm so well advanced, then I really would want to see into if you still have anxiety and you have your hormones dialed in and you have your blood sugar under control and you do stress management, then it's really time to look into the gut and also into toxin levels. And that's kind of what happened to myself with being exposed to mold that completely messed up my gut. So I have all these nasty bacteria producing like lipopolysaccharides in my gut, and that's really affecting my GABA, which is our Zen neurotransmitter.
Mm-hmm.
And so that can also kind of keep you from sleeping well. And definitely, so if you've done all the right things, then and you're still not seeing success, then it's probably time to dive a little bit deeper into testing for toxins or stool panel testing to see what's going on in your gut.
Awesome. And that's another whole conversation which we won't get
No,
right
no,
into
no, no,
gut health
no.
now because I think we'll be here too long.
I'll
But
stop there.
no, that's been awesome. Thank you so much. And I will put details of your website on the end of here so people can come and find out more and dig through your blog and stuff.
Okay, great. Thank you so much.
Thank you.